So Busnois probably wrote the pop song L'Homme Armé. And we did it a little early because it was used by an older composer, and that would be Guillaume Dufay. But here's Busnois in the proper spot in the chronology. And so another performance of L'Homme Armé. And they are using a score that I had as a kid. So let the record show that my version from memory turned out was totally correct. And then you might have noticed I had Mr. Shoutman come in there and patch in the performance that equated to the score that you were seeing. But aha, I was right all along. And again, unclear whether it's major or minor, or rather, shall we say, whether it is Mixolydian or Dorian. Ockeghem, first composer I know of who is depicted wearing spectacles, and his L'Homme Armé Mass features the use of the tune in major as do, do, fa, fa, mi, re, do, and it starts right at the beginning of the Kyrie. And have we acknowledged just how weird this is? I mean, what's the deal? The man in arms is the basis for polyphony, for Renaissance masses. Certainly in the medieval period, using Kyrie fours seemed to make sense. I mean, it was a Gregorian chant, and there was this kind of whispering down the lane where different people in different generations used the same tune. But the man in arms? Well, Constantinople had just fallen during this period. The Turks finally took over the last vestiges of the old Byzantine Empire. Maybe that was on the mind. The vestiges of the Crusades. But there's no question, well, maybe this was an inside joke passed from composer to composer again as a kind of an inside, in the know kind of gesture. Well, there's no question a lot of great music came out of this. But yeah, indeed, there are about 40 settings, at least, of L'Homme Armé, the hidden scaffolding, the inside joke. Maybe the clerics never got it. Maybe the ruling priests never got it, because all these composers were hired by the church, after all. Ockeghem even writes another one on his own chanson, Ma Maîtresse, My Mistress. Trumpets and drums seem to be alive together around the world. They're often used in royal situations, and that's true whether you're George Frederick Handel upcoming in the Baroque or the royal trumpets and drums of the Ilorin area of Nigeria. Ilorin was founded in 1450 as part of the Oyo Empire of the Yoruba tribe, which had been active since the 700s. Eventually, it came under the influence of the Islamic Hausa people to the north. And we've heard here a nice do-so, ti-so, do-so, ti-so. Josquin de Prez, really the Michelangelo of music in the High Renaissance. Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and Raphael, I guess, all balled into one. Although there are other worthy composers at the time. And yes, show off, he does not one but two Missa L'Homme Armés. And we'll get to them. But first, Josquin's most famous and earliest published motet, Ave Maria, Do, So, Re, Mi, Do. Pretty clear C major. We are in that major minor tonality thing, but we'll go out of it as well. Strict counterpoint. This is the first time with the bass where it departs from a head motive imitation. This is totally strict. Not anymore, because the alto and the bass now have diverted. Oh, and so has the tenor. So we're really into a much freer world again. And there's a kind of a purity and simplicity that almost, I would say, anticipates Mozart. Now we're in two-part harmony, and we're in parallel 6. Now we're in the first inversion, faux bourdon kind of harmony, derived from the English again. And now finally, all 4 parts in rhythmic unison, homophony rather than polyphony, at least for a moment there. Coming up to a cadence and the end of a first section. Eventually, he's even going to go into 3. Josquin can also use those white notes to mournful effect, alluding to A minor, and also G minor with a little, well, G Dorian with a little musica ficta, B flat here. Well, it looks like it's in the body of the music, but you never know. But here in Déploration sur la mort d'Ockeghem, that would be the deploration of the mourning on the death of Ockeghem. And so here we find another commonality with Ockeghem. Not only did the two composers write L'Homme Armé masses, but they also wrote memorial pieces to a past generation composer. In the case of Ockeghem, it was a mournful piece on the death of Busnois. And 5-part harmony. Josquin also writes a piece about a guy waking up in bed with a prostitute and not having enough money to pay for her. It's faute d'argent, for want of money. It's a French chanson, a French part song, but his most famous and definitely more lighthearted piece is a frottala, frivolous piece. It's really along the lines of a madrigal. And notice how in the Renaissance now we have moved from serious madrigals. Now they're pretty lighthearted, and the motets, which used to be pretty lighthearted, are now very serious and tend to be on religious subjects. This piece would be El Grillo, the cricket, is a good singer. His song goes on forever, and we've got word painting eventually. And back to that Renaissance harmonic ambiguity again. Let's take a look. Starts with an F major chord and voicing Do, So, Do, Mi, and that typical having larger spaces between the tenor and the bass and the shorter intervals, smaller intervals up top. That sort of equates to the overtone system, does it not? Okay. A lot of times we assume that the first thing we hear must be the tonic triad. In that case, it would be F Lydian, but there's more to tell. So you got the F, then you go immediately to a G chord, and ultimately a D chord, D minor, and then C in that voicing. So maybe we're in C major, so maybe we've done the 4, 5, 2, 1, and that would make La, Sol, Fa, Mi, which is my best guess for the solfege at the beginning here. But, whoa, then we go to a 5 chord, but it is reinterpreted. It is itself tonicized, and this may be the final solution, by the way. So say this is the G chord, and this is now Do. Do, 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 ti, ti, do. That's 1, 5, 1 harmony in G, and I think that's where we are. Bagolly. All right, and his song goes on forever? Well, the 1 chord back in C. So we've reinterpreted again. Are we actually in C major? Who knows? But G is the dominant of C, is it not? And we'll stick on this C chord for a while. We have, kind of a little bit of very modest, the voicing is here. Very modest counterpoint. The alto line is, let's say we're in C again. So it would be mi, do, re, mi, do, re, mi. Against that, the tenors, and that would be do, re, mi, do, re, mi. So on the same notes. In our recording, we probably are hearing all men on this. Anyway, so the result is mi, do, re, do, 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 do. Then after this, it's like the crickets in the field. When I used to live in Marin County, it was on a top of 300-foot hill. Great view of Mount Tamalpais in the distance. Those were the days, but these are the days too. But at any rate, down in the valley immediately below, Sun Valley, it was a very small Sun Valley, not the big ones we know of elsewhere. Crickets in the bushes, and you hear back and forth. Amazing. And you get this, the call and response. So, soprano and alto up here. And, by the way, the cricket is a good singer. Give him a drink. This is an early drinking song. Yes. Where's my drink?
Dale, beve, grillo, canta.
That's give a drink to the cricket singing. And then the tongue twister, still on that chord. We're basically just on the 4 chord, the F, or are we now in F? I don't know. And it would be, but then the tongue twister of, yes. And it's back to El Grillo. And that's the first part. So we really have a large A section subdivided by an A and a B, little a and little b. And that little b ending with a component of A, it's known as rounded binary. And then to a new B section, but that will be subdivided into a little C and a little D. And then we'll go back to the A, B. And this large ternary form of A, B, A, giant B, giant A, with small A, B, C, D, A, B will be terrifically important in the evolution of music. Let's see what the big B section is all about. For now, back on C chord, but immediately to a D chord, D major, and this is the notion of the secondary dominant. If we were in the key of C, the D chord would be D minor, but we've got the F sharp at the top, and if we were in the key of G, we would have the F sharp, right, at the top, so la, ti, do, and indeed we're going to go to a G chord after this. So, once again, the baby is born complete in the Renaissance. Secondary dominance, major and minor scales, modulations, harmonic and melodic minor. It's all there. All right, so we have cadenced into G again, and in a sense, we've got this kind of drinking bout between or among F, C, and G. And I think the fight finally ends on the G, but there's a little more to tell. That's the little C section, right? The medicinal section. And then the D talks about when it's hot outside, the cricket sings for love. Amore. Oh, and of course Josquin is a Burgundian composer, born in either very southern Belgium or quite northern France. But he makes, as Dufay did, he makes much of his career down south. So he has been in Italy for many years. So, of course, when in Italy, when in Rome, or when in employ of the Sforzas, wherever they are, Milan, do as they are, use their language. That's another Mozart connection. Mozart had a fair number of Italian operas, and here we have an Italian frottola by a northern great Renaissance composer. And we've been talking about G major, right? And we've been talking about using D major to approach G major. But now he turns up the amore into a little minore, and he cadences on D minor. And how does he do this? He alludes to yet another secondary dominant. He uses an A major chord. So they've got a bunch of C sharps here, and that C sharp eventually cadencing here. good singer and a good